Okay, let me get my stuff and my timer to make sure I don't go too long. It's actually time for graduation, so I could just leave now if you want. Okay. Oh, it's already there. Thank you, Maddie. You're awesome. Okay, so imagine with me for a moment. Can you hear it? Can you hear the sound of ripples hitting against the side of a boat? Can you hear the rush of wind pushing the sails of a boat and pushing it forward? Can you hear the silence of a fog as a boat drifts into the unknown? This was the picture of what the Lord gave me for my season at Vertical Immersive. A season of adventure and excitement of moving forward, but also a season of unknown, of learning to trust in Him and waiting to see what He would do. Before I set sail and came to Vertical Immersive, life was great. I grew up in a Christian family and everything was honestly pretty good, but I was searching. I knew who I was in the Lord, but I was searching in my identity of how I fit in His grand plan. I was drifting without purpose. I was underestimating the gifts and talents that He'd given me. I had lots of different fun hobbies, as you can see on the screen, but I didn't know how they would all come together to be a part of His story. I was missing God's blueprint and calling for my life. I needed a place not just to grow and go to college and find a career and a job. I needed a place to find a community, a family, a place to grow personally and spiritually. And that's where I found Vertical Immersive. Honestly, I was not expecting to come to Vertical Immersive at all. It was the week before signing up for online classes for college. My plan was do the first year online, get the general eds out of the way, and then I was like, mechanical engineering sounds great. It uses some of my skills and talents. And I'm so glad I did not go that route, praise the Lord. My mom actually heard about Apprentice University and then Vertical Immersive, and she's like, before we sign up, she's like, I think we should go check this place out. And so we had an interview with Mr. Wheeler, and honestly, I still didn't know a ton about the program, but I was like, I knew in my heart this was the place that the Lord had for me. And so I took that first step into the unknown and signed up and applied, and in a week, classes started. And I'll be honest, there were days that I doubted that decision. I was like, what in the world did I just get myself into? Especially like LJ mentioned, when we walked in that room and just stared at each other, well, awkwardly for like 5 minutes. It felt like an hour. We were just like, how is this gonna work? But the Lord pulled through, and He did incredible things. And so there's so many different things the Lord has taught me and grown me along the way, but I'm just gonna try to highlight a couple of them. So in the first semester, we really dove deep into understanding how God has uniquely wired us. And through Miss Rosie's class of leadership development, doing a lot of strengths testing and weaknesses testing, and I learned that I am a high-value chameleon. You're probably like, what does that mean? High-value chameleon, I realized that I was someone with strong drive and discipline and values and sometimes a rule follower. And before, I thought that that was a bad thing, but I learned to come to appreciate it and learn that it's a foundation for everything moving forward. And then I also learned I was a little bit of a chameleon. And before, I thought that this meant I was wishy-washy, that I didn't know exactly who I was. But when we did the true colors test and I scored high 3 out of 4 of the colors, I realized, oh, this all makes sense now. And I realized that that was a huge asset, that I could be able to walk into a room, assess the team dynamic, and then fit wherever was needed, whether it was a leader for one day or just someone to listen for the next. And then not only did the Lord use Vertical Immersive to show me how He has uniquely wired me, but in that second semester, He then started rewiring some lies that I believed in the past through the mindset class we did with Mr. Wheeler, but also through discipleship class that a lot of you have heard about with Mr. Dillo. And boy, having that class at the end of the day was like, your brain was mush at the end of all the deep questions and things we went into. And one of the topics in the discipleship class, I remember, was we were discussing about looking at your heart, of why do you make the decisions that you do? Why do you do the things that you do? And as I was driving home, I was just pondering on that, and I realized I had grown up in the church. I had done a lot of great things in my life, volunteered, done this or that, but a lot of it was not for the Lord. It was for my own selfish gain. It was because I was concerned with what other people thought of me. Or it was because I was concerned that I was going to disappoint the Lord, and that it was all centered around shame and condemnation. And from that discipleship class, we were encouraged to find a mentor, and I connected with Jill Hofswarmer, who she's here. I'm so glad she is with all of her kiddos. But she's one of the elders' wives at our church, and she really just opened that whole can of worms and really got to the root of it, of realizing I didn't fully understand the Father's love for me. And that's been a whole journey, and appreciate all of her prayers and the journey in that. And honestly, I was like, I don't know if I've really grown in this, but just a few weeks ago, I realized that I've started making decisions not thinking about what other people think or whether I'm going to do the wrong thing. I can make confident decisions now, knowing that the Lord's got me and He's going to direct my steps, even if I make the wrong one sometimes. It's going to be okay. Let's see. And so through all of this, I learned a greater appreciation for how God has uniquely designed me. And then next, in the second semester, now that we knew how God uniquely wired us, we then got into, now how can you use that work as worship, as LJ mentioned, and into a career and a job. And so I was like, okay, I'm left and right-brained. I forgot to mention learning through, that I was a strategic creative through Jen's class. This was a fun little project that we did in Jen's class, and I really appreciated that class because I didn't realize I had a knack for design, but she sparked that within me, and realizing that I could take my creative side and my strategic brain and do something where you can bring design and organization together to tell a beautiful story, not just in fun cereal boxes like this, but for greater impact for the Lord. And so then that all went into finding a job, and we did career development, and I found experience design, using design and storytelling to bring people into experience that impacts their life, whether it's an exhibit for a museum or it is a set for a theater. I thought, what better way to use my talents than to tell God's story and to bring people into an experience that they can experience God for the first time. And so I started building my tool belt and building skills to pursue that career. Got into graphic design and just getting reps of building my own style, whether it was through apprenticeship here at Vertical Immersive or through a little bit of freelance design I did on the side. Just getting a ton of reps and growing in that. And then stepped into spatial design. This was something I had never imagined trying out or stepping on my own in, but in our second semester, we were each given a personal project, and the staff came to me and they're like, we think it would be a grand idea. We have like 4 or 5 designs of branded wall spaces you should do here at Vertical Immersive. And we were sitting in a classroom, I just stared at them, I was like shocked. I was like, what? You want me to design wall spaces that lots of people are come through and see? That's a little bit scary. I had no Adobe design skills, never gone into Illustrator before that, never done any sort of 3D design. And honestly, I did not believe I could do it, but I'm so appreciative that you were willing to take the risk on me and give me that opportunity, because I learned so much from this experience. I failed a lot, and I appreciate you also going with me through that, but it's become one of the most powerful portfolio pieces that I have used when interviewing for jobs. It's the one that people are like, wow, I remember you because of that wall that was in the picture. And then also on the side, I got a little bit into 3D modeling again. I can go more into detail later about this, but I love just the aspect of bringing that creative side, but also the 3D elements of measurement and that more of that intellectual side as well. And so I was given the task from a future employer to create a 3D model in 2 weeks and send it for an interview and learn a very complicated software I had very little knowledge in. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. But we got in. There were some nights that were really frustrating and I might have cried, but we got through it, and it was great. And I walked in to the interview with a completed model, and I surprised myself, and I think I surprised them too. They were like, what? You actually did this? So not only did I grow in my skills, but I also in the third semester really grew in understanding my calling, that I want my work to be worship, and building my values of where I want to work. I'm sorry, my voice is like dying these past few weeks. So through the informational interviews that Vertical Immersive encouraged us to do in the job shadow days, I got to meet a lot of incredible professionals in the industry I wanted to go into, whether former Imagineers at Disney to CEOs of companies to incredible designers. And I was not only learning from their experience, but also interviewing their company in a way to be, would I want to work for you? Why would I not want to work for you? And then there were 2 jobs that I applied for in that fall as well, and I ended up not doing either of the jobs because one compromised my personal faith beliefs, and then the other job compromised my culture beliefs of what a culture should be like in a company. And working at Vertical Immersive and just the family that it is, and the encouragement and the feedback, I realized that it didn't matter what role I had, what job. I don't care. I can be sweeping floors. It doesn't matter. What matters is the mission that I'm supporting and the community of people that I'm doing it with. And then another way that the Lord really grew me at Vertical Immersive was communication skills. And this was through the entire 2 years at Vertical Immersive. But really growing through Mr. Osborne's Dale Carnegie classes and just getting a ton of reps and new tips and tricks to learning to embrace conflict. I so appreciate all of my friends because I was someone who ran away from conflict. You would see me on the other side and just let people walk over me and just be like, it's okay, you can do whatever you want. But they really just encouraged me, and because of that encouraging environment and doing feedback in a beautiful and respectful way, it really helped me to grow in that, and I have a lot to still grow in that, but able to then take that at home and be able to have conversations respectfully and stand up for my values. And then also learning client communication skills and learning from Jen how to advocate for my ideas. And it's okay if the client doesn't like every single thing about my idea, but it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that I have to pitch it in a new way that they really see the value of how it can serve them and solve their problem. And then also learning to advocate my gifts and skills. I built this semester a portfolio, and this was something I did not like to do, and I'm still learning to grow in of how to advocate my own skills. But I've learned that advocating is not pride, but it's stewardship of the talents and gifts the Lord has given you to be able to use it to glorify Him. And then another huge way is through networking, and I had the opportunity to go to 2 conferences. So it's called Spark at the Ark Encounter in Answers in Genesis in Kentucky, and I went first in 2025 and then just this past April. And it's just a creative conference bringing like-minded believers and creatives together to inspire them. And the first time I was super excited, but also like terrified. I went with my dad, and I was just kind of hiding behind his shadow, just letting him do all the talking and be like, hopefully I can meet some people that way. But just super nervous to get out of my comfort zone. And then the second time going to the conference this past April, I did not want it to be a repeat. So I made a list of all the people I wanted to connect with and all the conversations I wanted to have, and they weren't perfect conversations. They might have been a little clanky and awkward, but I hit every single one of those and even met more people than I was expecting. And it was the last day of the conference, and I was going up to introduce myself to a producer of a theater company I'm interested in working for later down the road. And I walked up, and I was waiting because he was talking to someone else, and then I was gonna interject. And there is a mom and daughter sitting over here, and they were waiting too. And so we're like, oh, let's go up together. And so we started chatting and talking, and the daughter was like, this is so new to me. I've never gotten into this before. The mom honestly was doing most of the talking, but the daughter was super nervous about networking and didn't really know where to start. And as I was talking and just being able to pour into them and encourage them, I realized just a year ago, I was that girl, hiding behind my dad's back. And just realizing the amount of growth the Lord has done, that now I'm able to pour into someone literally just a year apart. That is a testament to the amount of growth the Lord has done here at Vertical Immersive. But it's not the end. I've taken a lot of steps of learning how to surrender to the Lord and stepping into the unknown, and that's going to be continuing. I had the awesome opportunity to interview with Answers in Genesis last Friday, and this job is to interview for working at the Ark Encounter as an exhibit designer and a 3D modeler assistant on one of their newest exhibits, which is creating the most historically accurate model of Jerusalem yet. And just really bringing people into the time of Christ. It's set at Pentecost time and helping people experience and bring the time of Christ to life for them. And on Wednesday, I had the awesome opportunity to share with you all that I am the newest member of Answers in Genesis team. Yes, so super excited. I hadn't told anybody here, so I'm sorry for I think Shiloh, I lied to you when you asked me. I was like, I'm sorry.
Great timing, thank you.
I think I was like, praise God, he was really the only one that asked. So yeah, other people were just like, oh, we'll see what the Lord does. But yes, so thank you so much though. This is a testament though to everyone who has been here. I could not have done it without Vertical Immersive and the people who carried me every step of the way. I want to thank all of my mentors, Susan and Brian and Mr. Dillo and Jill and my dad for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself, for challenging me and pushing me further. I want to thank all of my biggest cheerleaders, my family, my mom and my sisters, and all of my facilitators for pouring into me and cheering me on and making me feel like I could accomplish anything. And I want to thank all of my friends for being an incredible family and making these past 2 years an absolute blast. But most of all, I want to thank the Lord. He's taught me so much through all of this. He's taught me that he is an intentional designer of how he's uniquely wired me and each and every one of us, and how he is a beautiful storyteller. He wants us to be a part of that story, and is a father of good gifts that we can then use to tell that incredible story to the rest of the world. He is a strategic connector of providing family and friends and opportunities that you would never imagine. And he is my provider. In the highs and lows, he's always there, and every time that I need it. And most of all, he is the wind in my sails. Though I don't know exactly what the future holds, and it's gonna be unknown, it might be foggy sometimes, I know that he is the one guiding me and pushing me every step of the way. So, with that, I have time for like 1 or 2 questions. Who has the first question? Jen.
Yeah, so in the capstones last semester, this was fun. I was in the room with you guys. The team was super stressed out, so not fun for you guys to know.
Yes.
Super stressed out that you guys were trying to work out how to communicate something visually that had really been a struggle. And you said, okay, hold on guys, wait a second. What are we doing? We need to pray about this. What would your advice be to the climbers, and maybe also like in your ongoing career? How does prayer life intersect with the work that you're doing?
Yeah, that's good. So your question was how my prayer intersects in all of my life and how I can give that as advice to the climbers as well. Yeah, so honestly, I'm so appreciative to those in my family and church who have demonstrated the power of prayer just through the different hard times in my life. My family, especially my mom, would immediately go to prayer of, okay, we don't know what we're doing, let's go to prayer because God has the solutions. And I think in the corporate setting too, we sometimes think that that's unprofessional or that makes us look like we're weak. But really it shows that we are humble and actually have strength because we're not relying on ourselves, but we're relying on the Lord. And so I think it's my advice would be learning to just train yourself as a habit of, instead of in those moments when things go wrong or problems happen, instead of immediately trying to fix it, just take a moment to pause, assess the situation, and just ask the Lord. Because you saw in that moment, we were totally stressed, we had no idea what we're doing. And honestly, I wish we had prayed and asked a lot earlier, because that would have maybe helped us not be in so much pain the whole time. But yeah, just taking that moment, and the Lord showed up. He shows up every time. Sometimes it's a little later than we want, sometimes it's not exactly how we want, but he always shows up. So yeah, that would be my advice. time for maybe one or two. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, congratulations on your position. Is it remote?
Yes, so I will be there during the summer 4 days out of the week, and then I have some commitments over the summer that they let me do like a day remote.
Okay.
But everything really needs to be there since we're going to be working hands-on on the project.
Are you worried
So,
about that move at all?
I'm definitely a little nervous. At first, the start date was in a week, and I was like, oh, I need to go find a place to live. But thankfully, we've been able to kind of work it out, and there's a total, I think, of like 15 people with my position because they need a lot of hands on deck. So they're kind of starting people in sections. So I'm probably one of the more further people, so they're willing to help me out. And they have housing and different things as well, options. So yeah, we'll figure it out. The Lord will figure it out. Yeah. How about one more question? Yes.
You received so much feedback in your work, and you were so open about it. What advice do you give to all of us about feedback?
So your question is my advice of how to take feedback. Okay. Yeah. I think it's really just having that heart of growth, and I think that's something we've learned here at Vertical Immersive, of realizing I can always be better, and who am I to ever say that I cannot get more feedback. And I'll be honest, there's been days that sometimes I don't want it, and I have to be like, there's a time. I was working on my resume for my interview, and my parents were trying to help me, and I would say at that moment I probably wasn't taking feedback as well because I was really tired. But in those moments of just recognizing it can always be better, and people are giving you feedback not to tear you down, it's because they truly love you and they want you to be better. And you have to recognize that same love for yourself of wanting yourself to be better, that it's not something to tear you down, but it's something to build yourself up, that I can be better and this is an opportunity. It's not because of a weakness, but seeing it as a positive and an opportunity and a way to go even further than you can imagine. So just having that constant heart posture. Yeah. So thank you so much for all of your time, and I just want to leave you with a note of, though you guys all have amazing different lives and may not exactly know the next step the Lord has you on, know that the Lord is pushing you forward as He is guiding you and He is the wind in your sails. Thank you so much for your time.